Hola, mis amores. It's your girl, Yanori Pouncil, the guiding light to thought leaders and high achievers that are being the best version of themselves, trusting their inner voice, cultivating their inner peace, and enjoying their lives every single step of the way. Today, we are going to be chatting about the one subject that you really need to study, your own childhood. And this is video number five? Video number 5 of our 45-day series on the path to inner peace. Oh my God, y'all, can you believe this? It's video number 5 already. Yikes. So this video is going to be extremely helpful for those of you that are in the process of integration, the process of bringing in the parts of yourself that you love, immersing them with the lessons that you are learning from the parts of yourself that you do not like. And it's a beautiful opportunity for us to really reflect and look at ourselves and to move through this journey with inner peace and to do it overflowing with mental calm and enjoying the present moment with ease no matter what, which is a lot of where the joy is at. So, why did I want to talk about this? Why are we talking about your childhood, my childhood, their childhood, everybody's childhood? Why are we discussing that? Most people are actually fed up with this topic. That's one thing I find. When clients come to me, they're usually like, I'm tired of talking about my childhood. And they tend to be fed up because they're focused on the traumatic side of it. They're focused on all the things that they don't like about that part of their lives. And this behavior usually leads to avoiding revisiting this topic, to be honest, because if you don't want to go looking, if you don't want to find if you don't want to look at what you're going to find, you're just not going to look. And it actually leads to closing ourselves to powerful learnings, powerful lessons that come from that period of our time. Instead of leaning into those learnings to cultivate our inner peace, we simply avoid it. We avoid it because we don't want to revisit those parts that at times still very much hurt, like the first time. And to align yourself with the energy of inner peace in those moments, it's necessary to study our own childhood. And to study our own childhood with a curious spirit, a spirit that is determined to give ourselves what we once felt that we lacked. That's what I've learned in this process. That's what the alignment is about. These are the conditions where inner peace thrives. Inner peace thrives when we are learning from ourselves, where we are growing from ourselves. And what a more beautiful place to grow than through our childhood. The key is learning from our child self, not ignoring her or him or them, whatever you go by. The key is to learn, is to learn from who we were back then and to allow that learning to help us lead the way. I want to talk about why this is actually something that high achievers and thought leaders experience and how it looks like for us, right? Because that's what we're here for. And I know that you're here, you want to get the tea, and I'm going to give it to you because I'm just like you. Most of us have learned that there is power in rejecting our childhood. We have learned that when we reject things and pretend that they don't exist, they didn't exist. And the way that we do that is by rejecting them. And I know this because it used to be me. And there are times when that is me. I'm constantly discovering things about my childhood that I pretended that it didn't happen because I was uncomfortable by it. And I was not ready to move through that discomfort and process it. So I know that it happens because it's happening to me. There are things within me right now that are occurring that are coming from my childhood that I am learning to face. I'm learning to look at from a different angle. Here's the deal. Oh, yes, yes, yes. hmm Yeah. Our childhood creates a series of patterns. In your childhood, you create all of these different patterns, patterns of thinking, patterns of feeling, patterns of acting, patterns of experiencing. There are a bunch of patterns that we create during our childhood. And our patterns directly impact our inner peace. So, to elevate our inner joy, we must revisit our childhood patterns constantly. To elevate our inner joy, we must revisit our childhood patterns constantly. And this is particularly true for those of us that are thought leaders, those of us that are the type of people that are the go-to person in our field or in our families or in our communities. Because oftentimes we are lying to ourselves about what our childhood was like. The memory is actually not as reliable as we think it is. There's this documentary I watched about it on Netflix on the mind, and he broke down how the memory creates things that may not necessarily have occurred, and how important it is that we are aware of that mind, the mind's ability to do that. And what I've learned in my life is that there were times where we lie to ourselves about what happened in our childhood and what patterns emerged. There are times where we make those patterns worse than what they were because of the attachment to the fears and the discomfort that we felt as children. There are times when we are looking to avoid the way we showed up. And we were kids, we didn't quote unquote know better. And at the same time, we engage in ways that we know we're in alignment that don't feel good to us. We said something to somebody because we were retaliating, or we felt like somebody didn't look out for us and that was the responsibility. And these experiences begin to shape how we look at the world. And what tends to happen is that that thing that happened in our childhood is the very same thing helping us, or I would say, keeping us in the energy of victimhood through perfectionism as adults when we are engaging in our lives, when we are leading other people, when we are leading ourselves, when we are shifting how we look at the world. Those same patterns that we learn in childhood are running the show right now. And it's important that we look at this because when we don't release these childhood patterns that don't serve us anymore, because we're so focused on how annoyed we are and frustrating it feels to move out of alignment, we enter a vicious cycle. We enter a cycle of self-loathing instead of self-empowerment. We begin to think that we are less than, that we are not worthy, instead of seeing that we are. Instead of seeing our wholeness, our abundance, we shy away from that because we simply aren't focused on that part of who we are. And we don't realize that it is our childhood that holds the key. It is revisiting those moments of ourselves from a different angle that helps us grow and evolve. So here's what I want to share with you today. We're going to do 4 things, you know, the vibes. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to share with you the number one reason why the one subject you really need to study is your own childhood. No matter where you are in this healing journey, no matter where you are in your journey to inner peace, this one is a non-negotiable, babes. Number 2, I'm going to share with you what studying your childhood looks like as a thought leader in the path to inner peace. Because it's not just about going there and visiting the trauma and feeling bad about ourselves all over again. That's not the way that we want to approach it at this point of our lives, at this point of our journey. I'm going to share with you 3 ways studying your childhood cultivates your inner peace, because I want you to see that this actually cultivates your inner peace. And when you see it, because you cannot see awareness like we talked about in, I believe, video 3, when we talk about isolation, you will continue to grow. And I'm going to give you a bonus for staying with me. And in the bonus, I'm going to break down the way that I study my own childhood with calm and with ease so that it can serve you if that's what you choose to do. Now, those of you that know I'm the mentor for you, you know the vibes. There's a link in the description below. There's also a link in the comments, I think, too, where you can click, where you can schedule a inner peace mastery level up session or an inner peace level up session with me. And we're going to take a look at your inner peace. We're going to look at what's happening there. Why aren't you showing up with the level of authenticity and joy that you desire? What are the things that are keeping you from stepping into the knowing of the being that you are? And what can we do to remove those blocks so that you can shine unapologetically, no matter who's in the room? That's what we're going to cover during that conversation. So you want to make sure you grab one of those calls for this week. I believe I have 5 of them, if you know I'm your person. So in my journey to inner peace, I've been on this journey at a conscious level for 13 years. And in this journey, I've learned a lot about myself, and I spent quite a bit in the childhood topic. And I got into this topic because, like all of us, you learn about, you got to look into what's happening in your childhood. And when I was diagnosed with transitional depression in 2017, I saw a therapist and we talked at length about my childhood and what things had come up. And during those conversations, I did feel quite a bit of validation from this person, this therapist I was working with, because it just helped me see that I wasn't crazy and that there was a lot of things going on in my childhood, and that, it was a ride. It was a ride. And then when I stopped seeing the therapist, I began to dive deeper into my childhood because I remember learning that the body keeps the score, and the body keeps the score is that whatever is a concept, and it's also a book, but it is a concept that describes this idea that whatever happens to you in your childhood is still stored in the form of energy in the body, unless you choose to release that energy through, be it energy healing, be it movement, be it the food you ingest, and being like feeling your feelings, going through like your spiritual awakening. And when I began to look at these my childhood, I discovered a lot of patterns that I was like, yo, this pattern is doing a lot. And there's one specifically that I want to talk to you about because it illustrates why it's so important that you study your own childhood, because that is where all these patterns emerge from in your life. One thing that I grew up with was I grew up with my aunts, and my aunts had this thing about finish your plate. Let me know in the comments if you know if that was you, if you grew up with that energy. My aunts were very much like, you got to finish your plate before you get up on the table. And this pattern is an interesting pattern because I remember really not wanting to finish my plate at times, being full, and still eating because this person said that I'm not able to get up unless my plate is clean. And that behavior, that dynamic, really created a very interesting pattern for me. And this pattern has manifested in my life in many different ways. It manifests in the form of overeating. So I will eat even though I'm full, because again, don't get up till you finish your plate, even when you are complete with your eating. And it has also shown up as taking on more than I desire, because I've learned to literally take in more food than I desire. And I've also have learned to not know when to say no. Or I'm not even gonna say not know when to say no. I'm gonna say to expect my no to not be received. Yeah. I've learned to expect my no to not be received because of that finish your plate pattern in my childhood. And it has showcased all over my life, in my business. 20,000 things on the to-do list. Girl ain't gonna do like two on a good day. In my relationship, thinking I'm gonna be able to do all these things around the house, she ain't gonna do nothing because she's tired from all the things she did in the business. It has showcased in my relationships with my friends, saying yes to things, knowing that it's gonna be really difficult to make that happen because of that expectation that the no is not gonna be received. You see how that happens? And this is why we gotta look at our childhood, because these childhood patterns that we have are running the show. And when you don't know they're running the show, you are not prepared to make different decisions when things come up. So let's jump into this because I want to get into how this relates to what we're discussing today. The number one reason why, the one subject that you really need to study is your own childhood. It's because your childhood is full of unconscious patterns that are running your conscious life right now. Your childhood, the one you don't want to be looking at all the time, is full of unconscious patterns that are running your conscious life right now. And when you go and you look at these patterns from a position of power, right, from a position of leadership, of self-leadership, you are able to meet yourself where you are so that you can make decisions around where you desire to go next from a position of love, not of achievement, not of checking the thing of the list, not of I need to do this to free me from the discomfort of not being perfect, doing it because of love. And this is what it means to see how you act versus how you think you act. You've heard me say that over and over again during this series because that's the foundation of self trust and inner peace. Seeing how we act versus how we think we act. That is what self-awareness is all about. And it is important that you are aware that that's happening in your childhood because then you can be intentional around how you show up in your adult life. Let's look at what studying your childhood looks like as a thought leader in the path to inner peace. I've broken it down into 3 ways so that we can keep it simple. When you are exploring the actions of the adults in your life, because when we go to the childhood, we can explore the actions of the adults in our lives. I was doing that with my aunts who were the ones that raised me. I was exploring their actions. And I found myself getting angry towards them because I felt like they weren't looking out the way they were, quote unquote, supposed to look out. And instead of getting angry towards people for their action or their inaction, what you want to do, what serves is to shift to giving our parents or the adults that raised us grace. Giving them all the grace in the world because people can only give us what they have, y'all. And this includes our parents, our grandparents, our family members, our colleagues, everybody. They can only give us what they have. So when my aunts were saying things like, you can go to the beach, but you cannot wear a bathing suit. You can go to the beach, you can wear your bathing suit, but you got to have a shirt and shorts on top of it. They were giving me what they had. That created some body image challenges for me. And at the same time, they were giving me what they had. So there's grace. When they were like, you can't get up till you finish eating your plate, they were giving me what they had. And there's grace for them. And that's more joyful than being angry. You're going to find yourself exploring your own actions as a child. Like I found myself exploring my own actions as a child. And there were moments where I convinced myself that people didn't care. There were moments that I convinced myself like, yo, I was a kid. I was going through these experiences. My mom was in the United States. I grew up with my cousins. And I really felt alone a lot because my core family wasn't present. My brother grew up in another part than I did. And it was easy to feel like people didn't care. And what I desire for you to shift to is to giving yourself grace for adopting this approach for your child perspective. When we are kids, we don't have all of this expansion around thinking. We don't have all of these concepts around, this thing is happening because my mother moved to the United States to help me have a better life and more opportunities, so it is okay. We ain't thinking about all of that. We're not that expanded at that time. All we're thinking about is people got their mom. I don't got my mom. Why I don't got my mom? Does she hate me? She doesn't care. That's what we tend to think. And what we're able to do is shift into that grace. And remember that we can show ourselves grace by choosing to see what we learned from our childhood that has served us as an adult. We can show ourselves grace by choosing to see our progress. We can show ourselves grace by choosing to see that is what I believed back then. And now I know different. And I can make different decisions because I know that knowing to be different. It is okay that that's part of my reality. You also find yourself shedding the expectations you had of others as a childhood. So many expectations I had of people as a child. Based on what society says, to be honest. I expected people to act in so many different ways, and they didn't. And part of me revisiting my childhood and studying my childhood has been a shedding process of those expectations. And instead of attaching yourself, which is what I was very attached and entitled to what I felt was owed to me based on what society said that I was, quote unquote, supposed to have. Instead of stepping in, embodying that energy, you want to shift to letting go of those expectations you've developed. You want to shift to letting go of the expectations you have of others, the expectations you have of yourself, so that you can see yourself clearly and with compassion and with grace. And you can allow yourself to see your humanity. You want to be available to seeing yourself and others from a perspective of letting go of the past. Because if you're holding on to the past, it's going to be very difficult to study your childhood and to learn from your childhood from a position of power. To be able to be like, yo, I had a childhood that had things that were crazy and were amazing. I had a childhood of things that stretched me and helped me grow. I had a childhood of moments that helped me laugh and I felt joyful, and moments that I cried and I felt disoriented. Both things were coexisting the entire time. The third thing I want to share with you are the 3 ways studying your childhood cultivates your inner peace. You ready? So, the first thing that happens is you hold space for your feelings. This is a very powerful thing because when you are studying your childhood, you hold space for how you feel. You are willing to go to those moments where your classmate says something mean and you cried and you felt like they didn't care about you and they didn't see you, and you allow yourself to feel those emotions because they're going to come up in real time, especially if you have not processed them, and you allow yourself to release them from the body. Brings you a lot of peace because, like I told you, the body keeps a score, and all the energy of stuff that we don't like, that we don't care about, is stored in our body. So when we hold that space to feel our feelings, we are allowing ourselves to melt away those emotions energetically that are no longer aligned and that do not feel good to us in our body. The second thing that happens is you accept yourself with compassion. We talk a lot about acceptance in this series because it's a big part of inner peace. And it's important that we are engaging in activities that cultivate our acceptance so that we can unleash that inner peace. You see how we work together? And when we accept ourselves with compassion, we face our reality. We face that there were parts of our childhood that felt really uncomfortable for us. There were actions that people engaged in that we were like, WTF, why would you even do that? We accept that, and we are able to be compassionate with ourselves through that process of acceptance, because at times it's going to feel uncomfortable to do so. And that feels peaceful because when you accept yourself, when you expand the energy of compassion and self acceptance, you are expanding the energy of love. And love feels peaceful. The third way in which studying your childhood cultivates your inner peace is you ground yourself in gratitude. When I've been going to my childhood and I am learning about myself, there's so much gratitude I have. I used to think a lot about curses, generational curses. That's really a popular term, generational curses. And when I revisited my childhood from a position of love and learning and growth, I discovered that for everything that I used to call a generational curse, there was also a generational gift on the other side. For everything I thought was a generational curse, there was also a generational gift. And that helped me see that there was good, that there was beauty in my childhood, that there were some traumatic events. Yes, I'm human. I'm here to learn from those events. That trauma has turned into triumph over my life. It was a part of the process. And at the same time, there was joy, there was laughter, there was beauty, there was fun. And it completely reshaped how I looked at my childhood. And that feels peaceful. And I want you to have it so bad. Okay, I got a bonus for you. I'm going to give it to you in 1 second. Let me know if you have a bonus. What's coming up for you? Talk to me in the comments. What you feeling, boo? While you drop in the comments if you want this bonus and what you got going on, give me a sunflower if you want this bonus in the comments. I'm obsessed with sunflowers. I'll do a video and tell y'all why at a different time. But in the meantime, while you drop that in the chat, let's talk about working together because I know you desire leadership. I know you desire guidance. I know you desire to be in a place where someone is going to hold you accountable and they're also going to see how amazing you freaking are. I know you desire to be in community with people that are going to look at you as an icon and not hide by your power and are going to be willing to hold you up in those moments that it feels safer for you to shrink down? Do you want to have my one-on-one support in your journey to inner peace? Do you want me in your corner? Because if the answer is yes, baby, we are currently enrolling clients for our best-selling program, the Self-Trust Society. The Self-Trust Society is the place to be. I ain't even joking. It is the place to be if you are committed to being the best version of yourself, trusting your inner voice, cultivating your inner peace, and enjoying your life every step of the way. It is the best place to be because we focus on prioritizing leading with your joy, leading with your inner peace, not with the calendar, not with what people want, not with the expectations, not with what's quote unquote right, with your joy, with the thing that lights you up. Because when you create from the energy of what lights you up in your life, everything feels peaceful, no matter what's going on. And in the Self-Trust Society, you're going to spend 12 months with us, with me, in my authenticity container, cultivating and expanding your authenticity, because in that space, you're going to become a more joyful version of you. And you're going to be able to step into your next level of growth, fully embodying the parts of you that light you up, learning from the things that stretch you. Now, I have opened up my calendar. I have 5 inner peace level up sessions. You can book one of them. You can apply for one of them. These are for those of you that are ready for the next step and that know I'm the mentor for you. So if you don't know that, if you're not in that place, continue following this series and it may change your mind. It may help you see what you're looking for in your mentor. May or may not be me. It's okay. For those of you that know it is me though, and those of you that are ready, there is a link in the comment section and there's a link in the description box to apply to work with me. I want you to click on that link and to fill out the application and let's go create magic in your life because it's going to be a whole vibe. I mean, you see it, babes. Energy is honest. You feel the vibes. Y'all ready for the bonus? So, the best way to study your childhood with inner peace. I'm going to make this one really easy for you today. One thing. Be willing. Be willing to see your life from the perspective of an architect, not a victim. Be willing to look at your life from the perspective of, I intended to be here, not I fell here out of nowhere and everybody is not looking out for me. When I go to my childhood, I am willing to look at how did I co-create this? What was my intention behind it? And even as a kid, I knew the vibes. There were people I wouldn't listen to. There were people that I knew that they were not in alignment with me, even as a kid. So I could look at my childhood and see how I knew back then what was in alignment with me and what wasn't. It's really exciting. So be willing to see yourself from that perspective. Be willing to see how you architected some of these experiences, even as a child, because you knew what was best for you. Be willing to be uncomfortable as you hold space for yourself and others. Going to our childhood can be a very uncomfortable experience because it requires that we are able to hold space for ourselves. And when we are operating from a space of power, it also requires that we are able to hold space for other people in their journey and whatever they went through. And that can be challenging because my mother, she was in the United States when I was in Honduras for quite a bit of my life. And there was a bit of resentment there. And going to my childhood and healing that resentment has required that I'm willing to hold space for her in her journey because she wasn't just here to be my mother. She isn't just here to be my mother. She's her own person. Willing to let go of your attachment to emotions that drain your joy. This may come as a surprise to you. Hopefully won't. We be attached to these emotions that drain us. We be attached to feeling angry. We be attached to feeling resentful. We be attached to complaining. It gives us a set of identity, a sense of familiarity. And in this journey, in order for you to study your childhood with calm and with ease, you gotta be willing to let that go. You gotta be willing to let go of that attachment to the emotions that drain your joy so you can amplify the emotions that overflow your joy, that expand your joy. And then the last thing I want to say is be willing to allow yourself to feel good about your childhood, no matter what. This has been a very powerful part of the process of studying my childhood with calm and with ease, is allowing myself to feel good about my childhood. Yes, there were a lot of things that were traumatic. I'm not about to go into them in this video. There were a lot of things that I didn't like. And at the same time, y'all, I had an amazing childhood. I grew up walking distance from the beach. I was in a place where I knew everybody, very community centered, very traditional practices. Like I knew I came from a very, amazing group of people. And there are people, so people be people in. And at the same time, it was still a very amazing childhood. And I enjoyed it and I had beautiful memories of it. And the more I allow myself to feel those beautiful memories, the more joyful my life is, the more peace I allow myself to experience. So that's what I have for your bonus today. Did you like it? Did you appreciate that? Is that hitting or what? Did you like it? Does it matter whether you like it? It doesn't. Did it serve you though? Did it serve you? Did it feel? Did it touch your spirit? That's what I want to know. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to be covering making peace with your past and what you can do to navigate that season with ease. We just talked about looking at our childhood and studying our childhood. Ooh, excuse me. Energy has been moving through my body a lot. So quite a bit of burping over the last 6 months. And I'm not pregnant. We're gonna be talking about making peace with the past, because as we are looking at our childhood, we're gonna wanna make peace with this past. There are some things about our childhood that we may not have made peace with. There are some things in the past in our lives that we have not made peace with. And in that moment you'll have an opportunity to unpack what it is and look at how you can approach it differently. So we're gonna cover that in the next video. Thank you for joining me today, mis amores. This was a vibe. I feel like I'm really getting into my flow with this series, y'all. For those of you that are submitting your applications to work with me, I am excited. I am looking forward to reading them and to chatting with you and seeing you on the other side. Okay? My name is Yanori Pouncil. I am the guiding light to thought leaders and conscious high achievers that are being the best version of themselves, trusting their inner voice, cultivating their inner peace, and enjoying their lives every step of the way. And I'm here to make sure that you see things clearly. Thank you for joining me today. And remember that you are a vibe. Hasta luego, mis amores.